All right, welcome everyone
Ooh.
to this committee of the whole meeting of the school board of the Shippensburg Area School District. All right, we have three items on our agenda tonight. First, we'll have a presentation by Mrs. Blake, I believe, about the Lunch Bunch program at the high school. Then a presentation, I believe, from the organizers of the high school mini-thon team. And then we will have a finance update from Mrs. Lentz. So, starting with Mrs. Blake.
Yes, please.
Or Fritz, I'm sorry. Oh, shoot. I apologize. I don't know.
Can I hand you
Sometimes I don't know my own name.
papers? Because you probably don't have this.
Are you awake now?
How you doing?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry.
You're okay. My last name used to be hard to say, so I got Mrs. Blake a lot. Good evening. As you just introduced me, my name is Blake Fritz. I'm an assistant principal here at Shippensburg Senior High School. Thank you for allowing me some time to speak today about a restorative program that we have been planning for probably the better part of 6 to 8 months. So about the springtime is when we began planning this program. I really want to thank Ms. Frontino, Erica Frontino, school counselor here at the high school, Janelle Carball, school social worker, Amanda Aliff, who runs our school-based counseling program, and Kim Spizak for their help in helping design this restorative program. Before I go through the details, I thought it would be important to really define what like a restorative practice or restorative program is. So it's really an approach designed to empower students to learn from their mistakes, to understand the impact of their actions, to grow personally in their ability to problem solve and make reasonable decisions. So the goal is really, again, to help them learn from a mistake that they made. Some of the behaviors that were really unwanted during the 2022-2023 school year included students these are just some examples, students with a lack of emotional regulation skills, conflict resolution skills, students that had a lack of accountability for their actions, lack of empathy, disrespect, a lack of digital citizenship, really using their phones and social media appropriately, and really a lack of self-worth and respect. So those were some of the things that we really looked at when we were designing this program, so that we were targeting those types of behaviors. So this program, as I mentioned, and in that permission form I gave you, really kind of defines our want to promote a positive school culture through social and emotional learning development. So this program that I labeled at the top, we called it the Hounds Team, that's explained in the permission form, is a 6-week program. Students would meet twice a week. Program would participation about 35 minutes during the flex period. Initially, we had said during lunch. That's just really quite challenging because we have 4 lunch blocks, and if students are distributed amongst those 4 lunch blocks, it would be very hard to rearrange their schedules twice a week. So flex was a natural fit. So in order to begin this program, we did reach out to Aliff Counseling Services to help run our sessions. So here's just some information for you guys about what the program will look like. It does cost $65 per session to have a clinician run these programs. So for a total, for the 6 weeks, twice a week, it would be a total of $780 per group of students. Each week there would be different themes. So for example, when the clinicians there on Tuesdays, they would be given and taught information. For example, like one of the weeks is respect, self-worth, boundaries, impacts of bullying, and then the final week being a recap week, and the first week being an introduction week. So the Tuesday, there would be information taught by the clinician. Thursdays would be a guided discussion about that theme of the week. So for example, week 1 would consist of an introduction, going over rules or norms of the group, the goals of the group. Students would then be assigned a homework assignment, most likely relating to how they want to introduce themselves. And then on Thursday, they would present their homework as well as go through a guided discussion. Week 2, day 1, let's say that's on respect, would consist of discussions surrounding respect. What does respect mean? What does it look like? How do we show respect to others, etc. The students would then, again, be assigned kind of a homework that they would be able to practice here in the school building related to respect. And then on the second day, they would discuss that experience, their homework, and what they had learned. This group would have about 4 to 6 students per group, and then permission slips would need to be signed prior to participation. I know I'm giving you a lot of information, so. This type of program would be presented to families and students in conjunction with consequences for a student's action. For example, a student may receive a suspension or detention hour due to their action, and in addition to their consequence, we would recommend them be part of this team. Students would then engage in the restorative practice so that they wouldn't hopefully partake in those behaviors again. So far this 2023-2024 school year, we do not currently have any students to recommend for this program. Over the summer, the administrative team and the counseling team has spent countless hours on the following interventions to prevent these behaviors. We have spent 6 to 8 hours strategically arranging schedules for many individual students. We have revamped the PBIS program, our CHAMP, Character, Honor, Attitude, Mindfulness, Preparedness. Lessons, posters, shirts, rewards, etc. We have a Gray Matters group that you all may be familiar with that we run here at the high school through our social work team. So we've already had students signed up for that prior to the beginning of the school year to make sure that intervention was put in place at the very beginning. We have submitted many counseling referrals. We've had many parent meetings, again, all over the summer. We have e-hall pass, which has allowed hall restrictions to help us monitor students in the hallway. A variety of SAP referrals, the Student Assistance Program. Peer mediations, we have set up check-in and check-out for students that may need support or a mentor. And we've had social work involvement when that is needed in the home. So through our efforts this summer and the focus of the district being engagement and well-being of students, we have made significant progress in creating a culture here at the high school where the above behaviors are not happening. But it will be important for us to have this program as a resource and a restorative practice to us in case we do begin seeing the list of examples that I gave to you at the very beginning of this. So that is my kind of little spiel. Do you have any questions for me? And all of that information I can make sure is sent to you, like the amount and all of that.
It sounds like a good program.
Thank you.
I hope you continue to not need it, though.
Me too. I mean, but it's nice to have it in your back pocket if it does become a concern.
Yeah, and as the year goes on, I mean, even modifying it to identify kids who might benefit from, just small groups, time together. Sounds like it's already built into place to be adapted if needed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was my sort of follow-up question. You'd hate to have something like this go to waste, so there may be students who benefit from it as a preventive sort of tool.
Absolutely.
Or
Absolutely.
I have a couple questions.
Of course.
So it sounds like good news that this year we don't have as many, I guess, behavioral concerns as perhaps last year. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I would say yes, absolutely. There has not been the concerns that we had at the beginning and throughout the school year last year.
And it sounds like you're at least in part attributing that to some, I don't know, some proactive strategizing over the summer about how to manage some of this stuff.
Yeah, we took a lot of long hours this summer working on finding a way to help our teachers, our students, us
Yeah.
prevent those behaviors for sure.
So then I guess turning it over the other way, I'm just wondering what you imagined the program, like how many people would be in it and how many times you would run it a year if things were like, say, the same as they were last year.
I think the goal would be so our Gray Matters group is run, I believe it's 6 weeks as well. So it's every 6 weeks there's a new set of students. So I think that would be the goal, is every 6 weeks we would have a new set of 4 to 6 students that would benefit from this program. And then it would just be kind of cyclical. So if we found a student that would benefit from the program and they were already 3 weeks in, they would have to wait 3 weeks and then start the program at that point, if that makes sense.
And I assume the program, like I assume it's not something that's been invented for our high school, but something that's been used all over the place probably.
Yeah, these type of restorative programs and practices are all over the surrounding areas and in some of the other even alternative placements in our area to help change these behaviors that are unwanted.
And they work.
Yes, they do. Yeah, because you're really diving into the root of the problem. It's not just a consequence, it's a consequence, and then they're able to sit and learn, like I said, about respect, about empathy, about all those things, which when a consequence is given, that's not necessarily always you don't always see the long-term effects. So I hope that, yeah. It's been very productive in other schools, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just going to say, it's make discipline, or we have the option to make discipline less transactional. You do something, you get a consequence, we move on. We don't ever unpack it or have a dialogue outside of maybe the principal's office, and just kind of hope that nothing happens again. This is another layer to that. Would you mind refreshing the board's memory on what Gray Matter is? Just really briefly.
Yeah, so Gray Matter is run with Janelle Carball, the social worker, is the one that, is the main point of contact for that. She uses social work interns through Shippensburg University. So they go through a lot of somewhat similar things, but it's a lot of students that have had to overcome some really rough situations, whether it be social conflict, home conflict. So it's I think it's like a socio-cognitive therapy. I'm not a counselor, so I don't remember exactly what the word was, but it's a similar. There's about I think 4 to 6 students in that as well, but I can have her write something up better because she's the one that I don't participate in the groups. But it is a similar procedure as this would be.
So the big picture board is, we're having a number of opportunities for our kids, to get the support they need, so that they're able to improve, and engage and work on their well-being at the same time. So there's a layer of supports there. Gray Matters is more, less the punitive side, correct. Whereas, this program, is if you've done some rules violations, we can work our way through that more from student to school and peers, as opposed to maybe supports that the student might need in Gray Matters that might be more personal.
We end up recommending Gray Matters to a lot of students that bring other concerns outside of school to us, like as an intervention to help support them. So it's more of a preventative or supportive approach, whereas this would be a way that they would, again, learn from their mistakes and hopefully gain the things that they need.
Is this program a requirement for repeat offenders?
So again, we haven't ran it yet, but it would be that we're targeting those kind of behaviors that I was speaking, lack of emotional regulation, conflict resolution, accountability, empathy, all of those things. If we're seeing a student that's consistently exhibiting those types of behaviors, we would want to recommend this program in lieu of the consequence that they would be receiving.
So is it going to work in conjunction? How is it going to work in conjunction with the STAR program?
So students that would be in this program would not necessarily be in the STAR program. I would actually kind of see, so the STAR program has their own group once a week within that STAR classroom. And they're very unique, they're placed there for unique reasons. I don't know how to say that without getting into it. So I think this is really looking at students that don't have that support of STAR every day. STAR has that more therapeutic component, so this would be a really good, oh, did I talk too loud and break the mic? That's fine. Been there, done that. So yeah, this would be something for students that don't have that therapy component during that environment during the day, a different place for them to learn those self-regulation skills and things.
Yeah,
Maybe kind of looked at as like a, escalating up the ladder, like you would try this first and then
Absolutely.
kind of go back.
An intervent, yeah.
So if you remember
Intervention.
a while back, we talked about like a tiered approach.
Right.
So this is more of a tier one.
Yep.
So any like 85% of your students might have this tier one. STAR is STAR is a tier two
Right.
level intervention. So
That's what I wanted to clear.
not that those students couldn't participate in this necessarily, but it's kind of baked in to that tier two intervention.
Gotcha.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, you know where to find me.
All right, next we have a presentation from the high school Minithon team.
Are you guys able to see the slides that
We will, and they're coming up now.
I wasn't sure how all that was going to pan out with technology, but while the slides are getting shared, I'll introduce myself and the students who are with me tonight. I'm Kim Yonish. I teach here at the high school. I've been here at the high school for a very long time. Last year, I had a group of students come up to me and say, Mrs. Yonish, we would like our school to become a Minithon school. And I knew a little bit about Minithon. I knew that a lot of schools around us had Minithon already. But this group of students in particular, I couldn't say no to, because I know that these are movers and shakers. These are kids who, when they say they want something, they're willing to work for it. And so I agreed. And luckily for me, Minithon is a student-run organization, which they're going to tell you all about. And I'm just going to answer questions and support them. But I have Haven Almer with me, Eliza Hockenberry, and you guys are familiar with Lily Kell. I'm going to let them talk, and then we'll answer questions together. So.
Hi, I'm Haven. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we've been going through and working towards for about a year. We've been working on this. So a few of us, like she said, went to her and asked her if we could form this club, because a lot of schools around us already have a Minithon club, which is a lower branch of Penn State's Thon, which is the largest student-run philanthropy. And I have just seen a lot about it and a group of us wanted to start it at this school. So we spent about a year planning. We needed to work with a liaison. We have a liaison, her name is Tina, and she works for Four Diamonds, and she helps us to plan events and learn how to raise as much money as possible. She knows everything about Four Diamonds and Minithon and helping raise money. So we spent a year emailing other schools and learning from them about how we can get involvement, and then we got accepted to go tour Penn State Children's Hospital, which is what Four Diamonds funds, which they fund things like cancer research, social workers, chaplains. All of the money that Minithon raises goes to Four Diamonds, which helps those things at Penn State Children's Hospital, cancer patients. So we went and toured there. We got to meet with a chaplain, and we learned a bunch of stuff about the cancer ward at Penn State Children's Hospital. And then after we learned about where our money was going towards. We brought that information back here, and we told some of the students here and at the end of the year to let them start to think about maybe joining this year. And then we were invited to the Leadership Summit at Penn State, which meant that we were able to go and meet with a bunch of other schools and learn from them, hands-on. They could tell us directly what they've been doing that works for them, that helps them raise the most money. And we learned a lot, and we brought it back here, and now we're starting the club up this year. Well, we started last year, but we're starting bigger fundraisers, which Lily is going to tell you about, so Lily can go.
Hi everyone. I'm sure most of you already know me. I'm the student representative, but I'm also involved in a lot of other things, one of which is Minithon. So we have been planning fundraisers and just the club in general since last year, but this year, ever since we went to the Leadership Summit, we really got a better understanding of how to fundraise and what kind of fundraisers we should be doing. So our first larger fundraiser was a car wash at Advanced Auto Parts down by the Gulf Station, and we made about $500, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it was a rainy day, and it was all donation based, and it was all student run. We washed cars ourselves, we sold baked goods, and we have a bunch of different fundraisers planned throughout the year. So our next fundraiser is a gold out theme for lots of different sports. Where the football one is October 20th, the football game. The bigger, I would say the most profitable that I'm assuming would be the football game. We're selling gold out t-shirts. Gold is one of the colors of 4 Diamonds. It's the Minithon color. And we got corporate sponsors with we created sponsorship levels. I'm in charge of corporate fundraising, so I went to over 40 different businesses in town looking for sponsorships. Doing cold calls, but we're also going to have it's called Storm Ship, where the leadership team will go out into town and cold call different businesses. I have a list of different businesses that we plan on going to. But we also plan on having Mr. Shippensburg, a Thon pageant, or Mr. Minithon, which would be like a talent show, beauty pageant type of deal for boys to see who has the most Minithon spirit, who has the most spirit overall, and in order to qualify, you would have to raise a certain amount of money. So how do you raise the money? We work with 4 Diamonds. 4 Diamonds has works with a philanthropy group called Donor Drive, and the whole point of the app is to raise money. So everyone would have their own Donor Drive account, and then you would be able to accept donations from there. And the school itself has a larger Donor Drive, and we have fundraiser planned for every month. So those are just a few examples, but the overall fundraising goes towards Minithon, which is a overnight event. I think it's 12 hours to it's you dance at the top of every hour, and you aren't supposed to sit down because you're standing for cancer patients. That's the point. And it's a miniature version of Thon at Penn State. And we had a kickoff assembly last Friday, the 6th, to just introduce it to the 10th and 12th grade classes. And we had a lot of engagement. We had over 75 new Instagram followers. We gave them our Instagram. And we introduced the different committees that people could join. We don't really have general membership meetings. We have committee meetings. So whatever committee you're a part of, you would come to that committee meeting, and then you work together to create these events and raise money and things like that. But to go to the actual Minithon, you don't have to be a member of the club. You just have to raise $100 in order to be invited to the Minithon. So Eliza is going to talk about where we're headed and what our goals are for the future. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Eliza. So for This year we are, where we're headed is we are planning our first end of year mini-thon. This event is scheduled for April 5th starting at 10 p.m. and it's going to run until 6 a.m. on the 6th. By this time, we want to have raised at least $10,000 for Minithon. And this event, as Lily said, will be all night, and all the money we raise will end up going towards the Four Diamonds and Minithon. And this is going to be like throughout the whole school, kind of like a senior night thing, and it would also be a lot of things going on in the school. We'd have the gym open, we'd have the pool open, and that's kind of the whole goal, is to raise enough money throughout the year to be able to go to this event. Even if you're not like on the club, not running the thing, anyone can go to this event as kind of like our celebration at the end of the year, because you've raised money. And this is also when we would introduce who won Mr. Minithon, and that would be like another thing we would use to hype people up about this event and looking forward to the event.
The slide that you guys see there is the group of kids who have been working for really over a year. We quickly realized at the start of the planning process that to really make it effective, that we needed some time to learn first, and so that's why we're kicking everything off to the students this year. We're actually very fortunate to have Ms. DeLong here. She was involved with Minithon a lot at Camp Hill, from what I hear. We got that good word from the Leadership Summit when we were there. But this group of kids is amazing. They've been doing a lot of work, a lot of learning. When we took our trip to the hospital, they really got to see firsthand where their money is going, and we've already met multiple families in our school district, in our community, that have benefited from Four Diamonds, or that are currently benefiting from the work that Four Diamonds does here locally. So it's a really nice experience for these kids to get to see exactly where their energy, their monies, all those things are going. So if you guys have questions for us, we'd be happy to answer them. These were some pictures from our summer adventures, learning too.
No questions. Just wanted to say thank you guys for doing what you're doing.
Thanks for approving our club, so we appreciate that. And you guys are welcome. Our Minithon event will need lots of chaperones. It's an overnight event, so you can come for just a little or come for a lot. If you're connected with businesses too, I'm sure these kiddos will be knocking at your doors asking for donations of any sort as well. So.
If it's okay for the chaperones to sleep in the corner, then
yeah, they're gonna have all sorts of things. These kids, if there's one thing they're good at, it's big ideas. They're already thinking about like puppy rooms and spa rooms and things that you can get like VIP treatment. So maybe a nap room for chaperones will be. Sign me up.
I just want to say, kudos to you, Mrs. Janish, and the students. In my former life, Minithon was the event, and it had a profound effect on kids, just from the side of getting to hear the stories of those that are impacted by cancer, and being able to help even in a small way, and also as the event that so many kids look back on and reflect it as the highlight of their high school experience. And so, kudos to you. I'm really excited to see this take off, and for our students to be able to experience both that giving part and community service and help, but also have a time of community together and come together and just have some fun for a good cause. So thank you all.
Thank you. Big Spring was a huge help to us. They Zoomed with us. They shared all their documents with us. It was a huge help to have their support.
So just a comment, Mrs. Janish, I just want to say thank you for helping to kind of equip and empower our young leaders. Like, they had a vision, and you kind of help bring that to fruition and to use their leadership skills for so much good. It's such a great
They energize
program.
me. Like these kids are, I'm at the point in my career when I want to start crossing things off the list. But these guys are like, no, come on. So it's been good. You need that re-energize.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're all seniors though, except Eliza. So we're like recruiting young kids.
I appreciate you guys shouting out Mrs. Yanish. I feel like she doesn't get enough recognition for everything she does. She's student council, class advisor, and Minithon. We knew that she'd be the perfect person to go to because she just cares about the students and she cares about the world in general. So shout out Mrs. Yanish. Thank you guys for recognizing her.
Any other questions? Thank you for allowing us to speak.
Yeah, thank you for coming to present.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, finally, Mrs. Lentz.
That's fun.
No, good evening. Mine's not as probably as interesting as the last two, but I did want to provide the board with an update. The state has recently released the Act 1 Index, so I wanted to share that information with you. On the screen you can see the comparison of where we are for the current budget year and then what the Act 1 Index will be for the upcoming budget year. So for 23-24, let me back up to say that the base or our adjusted Act 1 Index is based on our market value personal income aid ratio. So any school district that has a market value personal income aid ratio above 0.4 actually gets an adjusted index. So for the current fiscal year, the base index was 4.1%, but Shippensburg's adjusted Act 1 index was 5.4%, because our market value aid ratio, as you can see there, was 0.5679. That brought in an additional revenue, since we increased taxes to the index, of just a little over $1.5 million. For the upcoming fiscal year, 24-25, you can see our market value personal income aid ratio increased to 0.5841. The base index also increased. It is 5.3%, which makes Shippensburg's adjusted Act 1 index 7.1%. As to what additional revenue that would generate if we increase taxes to the index, that is one that I still need to calculate, so you'll see there's a to be determined, but as we begin down the budget process here in the next few months, I will bring forward that number as to what that will look like. But obviously, if you would raise taxes to the index for next fiscal year, it would be more than 1.5 million for the district. Attached, I won't go into a lot of detail, but attached I provided you the history of the Act 1 Index back from the 2014-15 fiscal year. And so that last line, the base index, you can see that it's calculated using the statewide average weekly wage. Then there's the employment cost index, and then it takes into account the employment cost index. So as you can see, historically, we've hovered around like 2-3% for the base index. And as PASBO has continued to warn, or for those that aren't aware of what PASBO is, it's Pennsylvania Association of School Business Officials. We are probably at the peak, and the base index is probably going to fall in future years. So historically, we are probably at the highest it's ever been since the Act 1 Index was implemented. That is all I have for this evening.
What do you mean? What do you mean by gonna fall? What's gonna fall?
So the base index that you see for 24-25, it's 5.3%. If you go back, it was 4.1. Then we'll go back further, 3.43. That base index is going to eventually drop off in the future, which then means our adjusted Act 1 index is going to fall as well. So then that means if you raise taxes to the index, we won't generate for the current year 1.5 million. The amount of revenue that we're going to be able to generate is going to be a lot lower because our index is going to drop off in the future.
So Fred, the base index is really what the state is saying is the limit, like just a blanket kind of number that school boards can go to without going to referendum. Okay, so it's basically like here's the top of where each district can go. Because of our aid ratio, and maybe you can give a little more detail on how that's calculated. There's the aid ratio that says this district, due to their fundamentals, is entitled to go above the base index. Okay, so that's us. On top of that base index is our aid ratio which is allowing that number to be higher. Now, just to be clear, the decision to go to the index is one that the board has to make, and so I think Mrs. Lentz is saying we have the 0 to 7.1% option here for the district to potentially consider without going to a referendum. Okay, so can you talk a little bit more about the aid ratio and what that means and how, like, I don't want to put you on the spot.
So I didn't bring that with me, but what it is it looks at like the personal income in the district. So kind of like, I hate to say, kind of poverty, if that's kind of what you say, like the median income levels. So obviously ours is lower than other school districts, so we get an adjustment for that personal income ratio.
It's really 6 1 half dozen of the other in terms of, like, we get that bump based on the fact that there's economic disadvantages within our district. Okay, so it's a little wonky. It's saying that the tax base and the income is such that the district has the potential to go above, but that's because the surrounding area has some economic difficulties to it. What Christy is saying is that bottom blue number is set by the state, okay? And so you can see that it was 2.1, 1.9, and whether that's a function of the state wanting to fund schools on the backs of local more, they have been slowly bumping that number higher, through this little window. So it really starts to take off, in 2023, 24, and it's probably hitting its zenith, this year, and possibly coming down the next, back to those levels. That's just a projection, okay? So either way, we're looking at this window of time when there is the opportunity to generate more tax income from the local effort.
So all this does is prepare me for next year's taxes. That's
Right. So it's really just a preview to say, our window of potential tax increases is wider than it was last year, and last year was pretty big. Okay. So, I think it's probably, if you look at that, if you go back to 2018, 2017, the state probably set that a little bit low, which caused some difficulties, for a lot of districts, because you couldn't go above that number.
Isn't the index itself a function of, some function of inflation or cost of living, whatever? And I'm assuming that 5.3 and the 4.1 last year reflect, like, the rising costs of living and rising wages.
Yes, so if you kind of look, this is attached then for your information, but down below it speaks of the definitions. So the base index is calculated, it looks at the statewide average weekly wage. So obviously the wage rates, I think, have gone up since COVID. Most businesses are paying more. And then it takes into account the employment cost index, which is, I don't know, it's some index that the state calculates based on, it says Employment Cost Index Series for elementary and secondary schools, reported by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And then, of course, the adjusted Act 1 index, it takes into account our market value aid ratio to come up to a higher adjusted Act 1 index for us. But all that information is there below.
Could you go back to that other slide real quick? The previous tab that you showed us. So, question I had about this, you're pointing to that $1.5 million that raising to the index brought in. So that is the 5.4% increase. Like that's all of that.
That is correct.
Right. So what we had budgeted was the 4.1%, which is some, is what, 80% of that 1.5 million, but then
No, we budgeted to the 5.4.
Oh, we budgeted to the 5.4.
Yep, the board approved increasing millage rates by 5.4.
Okay, so we did know what the adjusted, so that's not news. The adjusted index for this year is not news. We knew that already.
Correct.
Oh, okay. So
But it's
what's
just-
news is the coming year.
Yeah, so it's just to show you the comparison. So last year's base rate was 4.1%. It went up to 5.3%. And then we had an adjusted Act 1 index of 5.4% for the current year. And if the board would choose to raise taxes to the index for 24-25, we could go up to 7.1%. And you can see that the 7.1% is derived, one, because the base index has gone up, but if you also look, our market value personal aid ratio also went up.
And that doesn't speak to even the special ed exception.
Correct.
Which is also on the table, which is a reflection of how much districts have to spend on special education costs. So like technically that could be more as an option. At this point, we're not making any recommendations. This is purely just letting you know what the windows and what where we are and what this is recently released information.
Why would the base index be going down in the future? Because I assume it's not because the state's going to fund.
You're speaking to the mic there, Mike.
Correct. I am not the expert on the Act 1 index and how that's all calculated. It is, again, it's the recommendation of our professional organization. I guess they believe that the information that's used to calculate this base 1 index, I'm assuming they believe that those factors will go down, which will then cause the base index to go down.
So it could just be like inflation will potentially go down, which will cause it to drop.
That would be one part of it. And again, this organization is kind of like a predictor or like hawk watch on this. They don't have any control over it, but they are in the weeds on it. Talking to politicians, looking at the data, and that's kind of where they see it trending, which would be back down.
Is that it?
Yep, that's all I have for this evening. The decision.
I'd like to know, where are we at within the district budget? I haven't seen a budget of what's in the fund balance or what we're spending. I haven't seen any of that. You used to give that to us.
So when we start the budget process, usually the first meeting of the budget process, I will share with you where we ended the fiscal year. We have not finalized the local audit yet. We're still working with the local auditors. So to give you where we've ended last year, I don't have those numbers yet. So usually that's one of my first presentations to the board to kick off the budget for 24-25 to show you where we've ended the fiscal year, and then we'll start talking about the upcoming fiscal year.
I understand that, but when I first got on the board, you used to give us a report about how much was in fund balance, how much was there, how much is there, so we had an idea where we're at instead of guessing. Can you do that again?
I can, but it would be more beneficial if you give me a month or so here till we wrap up the audit.
I know it's last minute, but.
And then when we wrap up the audit, I can tell you where we ended the fiscal year. I can tell you this much. We are going to end positive for last fiscal year, so we will be adding money to the fund balance. But to the exact amount and how we're going to distribute that in our fund balance, that is not done yet.
But did you used to give us a monthly or a meeting thing of the budget?
Not monthly.
Or I mean.
So when that budget process starts, you'll hear a ton about it.
I'm trying to keep tabs of what's going on now. I hear that we're hurting for money. We're going to be hurting for money. I hear we're not. Is there a way so that I can get exactly where we're at? You say we're going to have money left over. Is that because of fund balance? Is that because of we didn't spend as much? I don't want no detail. I would like something.
Yeah, and that's all what I do. Again, when I present where we end the fiscal year, that is things that I will go over with you. I will show you why we've ended the year well, if we've come in over budget, if revenues have come in, like if expenditures have come in under budget, if revenues have come in over budget. I will go over all that with you once we close out the audit.
So I can only get it at the end of the year and the beginning of the year?
Yeah, because I can give you throughout the year when you guys as a board, make, what do I want to say, when you approve to spend money out of fund balance, usually we try not to do that throughout the fiscal year too much. Lately, we've kind of been doing that a little bit more, but usually when we spend out of fund balance, we have you approve that during the budget process. So then it doesn't change throughout the year.
But if something comes up during the year, you got to take money out of fund balance. Do we get a report then?
I can start doing that.
Would you please? So not just, I just like to know. I'm tired of hearing rumors. I want to know exactly what's what.
Sure.
Thank you.
So I feel like maybe it's worthwhile to just, as one of our jobs as the board, as a board of school directors, is to advocate for our districts, is just to, for the public, a quick review of where our funding comes from. I mean, feel free to correct me on my percentages, but only about 30% of our funding comes through local property taxes.
It might be a little bit less than that.
Okay, less than 30%. 25% or more than 25?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah,
I
well,
feel like
all
it's
right.
in the 20s.
So in that range, in the 20s. And that is the only lever that this board has to pull to impact our revenues. Like that's the only one. So you got like 3 to 4% that comes from the federal government. In the 20s somewhere comes from local income taxes. All the rest comes from the state. We have no control over the revenue that comes from the state. No control over the revenue that comes from the federal government. We just get what we get. The only lever that we have to pull is this one. And it doesn't really, impact the revenue side of the budget a terrible lot. So if you are a person who is concerned about the funding of your school district or your local schools in general, that is really that is an issue to take up with your state lawmakers, because that's where the real difference is made, is the state allocation to the local districts.
And just a reminder, the public, that the Pennsylvania Supreme Court determined that the state had not been funding rural schools, in particular, with any kind of equity, and so they need to rethink and come up with a new plan and how they're going to do that.
Have we gotten a determination what the state's going to give us yet? You said you're working on that. The budgets they haven't decided that yet.
That is correct. There's still pieces of legislation that have not been approved. For example, level up funding, that is still wait and see if we're going to get any of that from the state.
We anticipated so much. It's off your normal budgeting. You could get more than that, right? But you just hoping that we can, but you don't know. I mean, what I'm saying is they made a lot more money to us than we expected, correct?
That is correct, than what we budgeted. Mm-hmm.
So that was definitely a plus, Mr. Scott. The question hanging out is some additional grant monies that they have not figured out how to come to an agreement on yet. And with Level Up, we, depending on how they decide to distribute it, we may or may not be eligible for it.
I understand. One more question. Foundation. Are you still our liaison with the foundation?
I'm one of them that sits on the foundation. Mrs. DeLong is another one. Dr. Lyman.
We ever going to give a report about what's going on there?
Absolutely, Mr. Scott. November 11th, the foundation is going to be given a presentation.
What rotation will they be on for presenting?
Committee of the Whole?
What, like,
You mean
moving
like
forward?
how often?
Yeah, like moving forward, how often will Miss Fink be presenting to the board, like with happenings?
Updates?
Yes.
Well, I can certainly, I didn't necessarily have it laid out, but we can certainly get that.
Kind of get that on a rotation.
Sure.
That would be
It was
appreciated.
originally supposed to be quarterly.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be terrific. Well, are there any other questions or comments for the Committee of the Whole before we adjourn this meeting? Okay, then we'll be done with this meeting, and in 10 minutes be back for our regular board meeting. Thank you.
based on the building stuff that we did.
Like I said, I'd have
knowing
my
that we were
Friday
already
after.
$30 million,
I probably wouldn't even work Friday. I'd probably just
$6 million over
Friday
what
morning,
we
mess
can
around
do
the
with
house,
just
pack
those
everything
pieces.
out.
That's the piece that the administration and the architects thought we could duplicate somewhere else.
That's exactly what I.
So that CAF was about large group instruction space, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we do the gym, we have the opportunity to have some large group instruction there. Okay, so it's really about finding what do you want.
A lot of times one of
Where
them
can you
play
put
on
it?
Sundays too.
Okay.
I would just like to know when things are done.
Well, I didn't
Like I said,
we went on once the girls basketball team. Maybe we played on Sunday.
Yeah.
All right, let's call to order this planning and action meeting of the Shippensburg Area School District School Board. If we could have a roll call, please.
Mr. Jim Bard,
Here.
Mr. Levi Kressler,
Here.
Dr. Michael Lyman,
Here.
Mr. Kurt Noggle,
Here.
Mr. Fred Scott,
Here.
Mr. Charlie Suiters,
Here.
Mrs. Becky Wolfinger,
Here.
Mrs. Steph Eberly,
Here.
Dr. Nathan Goetz,
Here.
Mr. Arian Gaunkar,
Here.
Miss Lily Kell.
Here.
Thank you. If you'd please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As we begin our deliberations this evening, let us once again be reminded of our duty to represent all of the children of the school community, regardless of age, sex, race, or creed, and regardless of need or ability. A reminder that this meeting is being live streamed and uploaded to the district's YouTube channel. Now may we please now have a moment of silence to reflect on our thoughts, plans, and actions on behalf of the students of the Shippensburg Area School District, and also in remembrance of Anna Shearer Reinhardt, who was a graduate, and Betty Jane Eyre, who was a 1960 graduate, Nancy Louise Kramer, a 1953 graduate and retired district cafeteria worker, and Ada Vetter, who is also a graduate, and I believe 105 years old when she passed away. Mr. August, are there any changes to the agenda?
No, sir.
All right. I will now entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Ms. Wolfinger,
Second.
second by Mr. Scott. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, this is our, we have two citizen comment periods in our meetings. The first is regarding any items that are on the agenda. I don't have anyone who signed up and asked to speak. Is there anyone who would like to speak in regards to any agenda item? Okay, thank you. Now we'll move on to student reports. Ms. Kell.
Thank you. High school happenings. The high school agribusiness commerce class created a business by the name of Jamma Snacks. They sold chocolate-covered pretzels on September 28th during Flex in the high school lobby. Homecoming was held on September 30th. The high school held a Neon Spirit Week from September 25th to September 29th. Congratulations, the class of 2027 won the School Spirit Award. Congratulations to our queen, Cambry Yanich. A police academy career trip to Harrisburg Area Community College will be held on October 12th for students interested in the law enforcement field. The Broadway Club took a trip to the Renaissance Fair on October 5th. Old Scotland Yard offered unlimited mini golf and a hot dog dinner to students on October 7th for the cheerleading boosters. The ACE Mentor program has started accepting applications from high school students interested in architecture, construction, and/or engineering. The organization will have mentorship sessions every Thursday from October to March. I will now pass the rest of the report to Aryan Gankar.
Thank you. Prospective high school students will be taking the PSAT on October 11th, so on Wednesday. High school students interested in manufacturing will have the opportunity to take a tour of Volvo tomorrow on October 10th. The High School Coffee House Club held their first performance of the year on Sunday, October 8th at the Inside School on King Street. The Shippensburg FFA has started Weston's Toy Drive, which is an annual toy drive aiming to donate toys towards Penn State Children's Hospital in Hershey. Now for the middle school. Clubs are being held again this Friday, as well as another coffee house hosted by the ILS, LSS, and ABA classes for school faculty. Students reflected in homeroom this week on what makes them unique and how they can make SAMS a safer place. Answers were written on orange strips of paper and will be turned into chains by the student council members to display in the lobby. This week, these Unity bracelets will be sold during lunch. Cherrydale fundraiser assemblies will be held on October 20th to kick off a fundraiser to help raise funds for the field trips. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Gankar. I believe, Ms. Wolfinger, you're doing double duty tonight. A report from the Franklin County Career Center as well as a report from the Negotiations Committee.
Yeah, so we had the Career Tech meeting on September 28th. The superintendent gave a report and just kind of talked a little bit about the uptick of COVID cases that were happening at the Career Tech and throughout the school districts. So they just have been continuing to follow the CDC guidelines that have been recommended. She also did bring up the discussion about the backup systems and the data breach that has, plagued another school district. So there was some talk about that, and then they are implementing the Sentinel program. He's over there shaking his head. Sentinel program, and then there's going to be like a discounted rate that they'll be able to be a part of with the IU. Graduation for the practical nursing program, they have had 12 students that graduated from the last round of programs that have already passed their boards post-graduation. It was pretty exciting. There are 22 in the new practical nursing program that started in September, and they're currently taking applications for March. Mr. Scholes talked a little bit about the uptick that kind of happened at Career Tech in the spring semester and how they were kind of refocusing on it to kind of drive down the amount of disciplinary instances that they were having. So year to date, as of that meeting, they had only had 3 children with suspensions, which he said is a big improvement over the last spring session. As far as applicants go, 255 this year versus 225 last year. So that number is continuing to climb. Let's see. Dr. Schumann kind of presented on, they are working on groups of 3 for professional development for the teachers, ranging in topics from in-demand certifications to how they're addressing moving materials from online into Schoology. Some teachers are revising curriculums for the next 3 years. They're a part of creating a task list system, and then some are looking at the program. There's a couple of programs that seem to be graduating a lot of females, but then once they are in those programs and out there actually working, that they're not maintaining and staying employed. And so they're kind of looking into that to see if there's anything that they can do within the program at the Career Tech to kind of offset some of that. And then the roof, it was a third of the way done with no issues, knock on wood, and 2 programs are already moved back into their places. So that was the Career Tech update. As far as the negotiations go, again, another great meeting with the negotiations and with our support staff union. You guys will see on the agenda tonight some action on that.
Yeah, item 6J and item 6K are the result of those conversations.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, superintendent report.
Thank you, Dr. Goetz. The enrollment report is attached. I'm pleased to report we're hovering right where we've been. It seemed to be stabilized, and our uptick in students seems to have leveled out. 1,141 students K-3,
SACE is at 560 students. Our secondary schools, SAMS has 847, and the high school has 1,126 with 23 placed in outside the district placements. So that gets us to 3697, and there's some historical data there as well that kind of shows the steady growth over the last 2 years at least. So thank you. Donation report. I'd like to acknowledge the following. Volvo, a $1,500 monetary donation to SASH's Veterans Day program. The value of the donation is $1,500. Our Education Foundation, $1,000 monetary donation from the Folsanger family to support the golf team. Again, from the foundation, 2022 smooth sailing supplies for use in the Shippensburg area school district. It's a $689 donation. Decodable readers also coming from the smooth sailing program from our foundation with a total of $110 for those decodable readers or books. Foundation again, smooth sailing. For supplies, $668. Foundation grade K to 3 home reading books funded through EITC for students in our district. The value of this donation is $455.88. That's getting books in the hands of kids to take home to read. Thomas and Ramona Timmons, a $50 donation in memory of Wayne F. Craig III to support our FFA. This is a particularly prideful recognition for us. We have some student recognition. We have 2 students at the high school who are recognized as commended students on the 2024 National Merit Scholarship Program. Commended students are recognized for their exceptional academic promise. According to the National Merit Scholarship Program, commended students represent a valuable national resource, recognizing their accomplishments as well as the key role their schools play in their academic development is vital to the advance of educational excellence in our nation. And we'd like to recognize Ariane Gonkar and Delaney Reinhardt and say great job. We're very proud of you. Just 2 more off the agenda items. Just want to note the Foundation's golf tournament was this weekend. It was very, very rainy, but it was wildly successful. So thanks to all the staff members and the Foundation board members that made that possible. And I'd also like to recognize Jonathan at the back of the room from Chartwells. Jonathan is going to be leaving us, unfortunately, for another opportunity. But Jonathan, you've been an amazing part of the Chartwells team, and I'm very appreciative of all that you've done to make food service grow and better for our students. So thank you very much and good luck. I know you're going to be around for a while, but wanted to just recognize you. So thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. August. Did you win the tournament?
We were, Mrs. DeLong and I were extra putters on hole 18, and I have the displeasure to report that neither one of us hit a meaningful putt all day. So we were no help to anyone.
All right, that brings us to the consent agenda. Item 4A is the approval of the minutes from the September 25th meeting. Item 4B is a finance report, various elements. Item 4C is a request for early graduation. High school administration recommends approval to permit a student request to graduate early. The 11th grade student is expected to complete all of Shippensburg area high school's graduation requirements by the end of the 23-24 school year. If all requirements are met, the student would begin at Shippensburg University in the fall of next year. And then item 4D is policies for second read and approval there. And item 4E is a District Education Foundation donation. Shippensburg Area School District Education Foundation is requesting authorization to donate a keyboard piano lab for use at Shippensburg Area Senior High School. Total amount of the donation is nearly $14,000, and pursuant to board policy, the board of directors must approve this gift. Are there any of these items, item 4A through 4E, that anyone would like to take separately? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve items 4A through 4E?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Ms. Wolfinger,
Second.
second by Mr. Kressler. Any discussion?
Yes, I see a full-time custodian has terminated. Where we stand at, Superintendent, about?
So we're not, I think that's an item, under item 4F.
It
We're
is?
not there yet,
We're not there? Oh, okay, my fault.
but we'll get there in a second. Any discussion on items 4A through 4E? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, motion passes. All right, that brings us to item 4F, personnel. There are, again, a long list of folks who are joining or leaving the district. I just want to make special note, I suppose, to item 5. Ms. Tammy Pritchett has been the full-time executive assistant to the superintendent for a good while. Is now going to be retiring at the end, or the beginning of next year, and just want to thank her for her many years of service, both to the superintendent and to this board. Is there a motion to approve item 4F?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Ms. Eberly,
Second.
second by Ms. Wolfinger. Now, discussion?
Yes, I see two custodial positions.
Can you give me a number, Mr.?
Just the one up at the termination and the one down in resignations. I'm just wondering how bad does this affect our employees?
So what I would tell the board is that custodial services remain a challenge. We continue, just to remind the board, based on our square footage, we should have 5 additional custodians. So those positions were cut and not replaced. So we are struggling to get and keep custodians across the district. And frankly, I'm very concerned about our ability to keep up and keep our buildings where they need to be. But HR is working, diligently to fill those. Additionally, some of the things that we've just approved with the association, can help, hopefully help get and attract additional candidates and get them to stay.
Are we still utilizing the contracted custodials?
No, ma'am, that was not approved by the board. My hope is, it is sort of getting to the part where we're not able to clean key functions, and I'm struggling to find viable options to fix the problem.
I emailed you about this. It come to my attention that students at the high school are eating in classrooms.
So that's been a fairly standard practice in a lot of high schools. If there's a special, some students don't enjoy the cafeteria; it's too loud. Some teachers agree to allow them to eat in the in their rooms. It's more of a breakfast problem, Fred. Anytime you're eating out of the cafeteria, you have additional problems. I'm a little hesitant to pull that just because with the breakfast side, you want to get class started quickly, and there's not a lot of time in the morning for those kids to get the food and eat it. So they take it to the classrooms and kind of eat it during first period, which does create additional strain on custodial staff for sure.
That's a part of it.
The lunch part is probably less of an issue from my perspective. Okay. You're always going to have spills and whatnot, but I think breakfast is the bigger kind of problem, to my understanding.
So, if there's a spill in the classroom, our custodians are called to clean it.
So the day custodians is probably where we're best suited. We have folks during the day, except when they're sick or they have an appointment. It's tough to get replacements. Evening custodians are where we're really challenged. in terms of, just having bodies and those bodies, being able to come to work, or, if they call off, it's just a real struggle because there's no one to replace them. And so Chad spends a lot of time, moving resources around to cover buildings, which is kind of a strain on him, because it's kind of almost like a daily thing where he's got to navigate where to get the resources to get as much cleaning done as possible.
But if the situation gets any worse, are you looking at maybe having to cancel, taking food out of into classrooms because of the?
So we discussed that administratively. The building admin was sort of against that, just for those things. Because obviously Chad was hoping to advocate. I haven't heard that that's the key issue, Fred. I've heard more. It's this evening custodials that we can't get after. Because we generally have a custodian on every day in every building. So if there's a spill, we certainly can call and get it taken care of. It's just the massive cleaning that you do in the evenings. Having again
so no food in the evening, just in the daytime all the time.
Right. I mean, it's just getting to the classrooms and doing the what you can on a limited. You only have so many hours to do it.
Okay.
Any other discussion on item 4F? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Terrific. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, that brings us to the action agenda. Item 5A is profile of the graduate. Administration recommends the approval and adoption of the Shippensburg Area School District profile of a graduate. Copy is attached that we've seen several times and reviewed prior to this. Is there a motion to approve item 5A?
So moved.
Motion made by Dr. Lyman. Second by Ms. Wolfinger. Any discussion?
Yeah, I got, is this something, I thought we were already doing this. Is it, are we voting on this?
So this is just a formal adoption of it. We went through the collaborative process to create it. I presented it, but just this is kind of the board's blessing that this is going to be a guiding instructional tool for our staff.
Okay.
Some of the design work, I talked with Mr. Martin last week. That we were hoping to have some students, take a look at the design. So what you're really approving is the verbiage on it. We want to get some students to look at it and do some graphic design on it, and I'm looking forward to that.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item 5B, girls wrestling. Administration recommends moving forward with the process of sanctioning girls wrestling at the district, or in the district. Girls wrestling is a growing sport in the state, and the district is seeing a growing number of female students who are interested in the sport. We have a cost breakdown there from uniforms, officials, transportation, tournament fees, and coaches. Is there a motion to approve item 5B?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Ms. Eberly,
Second.
second by Ms. Wolfinger. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'll go quick. As you said, Dr. Goetz, this is a crazily growing sport in the state, but really specifically in central PA. So a lot of the other districts have gotten on board, so I'm happy that we're able to do this and provide this opportunity for the young girls who are interested. And then the other thing is, if you read this, so also thanks to Ms. Fannis for really pushing this stuff through and doing all the legwork for this. Sanctioning a sport is, there's paperwork that's going to the PIAA and all of that. So, but also thanks, if you look on here, thanks to the coaches who are going to volunteer to do this. Last year when this started coming up and we started really talking about it, they started like offering open gyms or open mats, whatever they call it, to girls to come out and try to learn the sport. So all those coaches, for our boys wrestling program, just jumping in and being all in on the girls too. I think that's awesome. So I'm excited for it. I can't wait to see a match come this winter.
I'm excited about it too. I'm excited to see where we can increase involvement of students in extracurriculars. I think that's important to make those available to as many students as possible. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 5C is the rekeying exterior doors throughout the district. Administration recommends the approval of the sales quote from AG Mario Company for the rekeying of the exterior doors throughout the district in the amount of just under $10,000. The cost will come out of the maintenance budget. The quote is attached. Is there a motion to approve item 5C?
I make Fred Scott motion approve.
Motion made by Mr. Scott,
Second.
second by Mr. Suitors. Any discussion?
Yeah, where's this company out of?
I don't know that right now, Mr.
Okay.
Ward.
I didn't know if it was local, so if there's an issue, they come in like 3 hours away, or, or is it somebody local can be here in 10 minutes, or?
Looks like they have a 717 phone number.
I think once they're installed, then Daryl becomes kind of the master of the keys, and he takes care of
Okay.
managing them.
It's the company that came to the facilities meeting, correct?
No.
Or is it a different one?
I don't know that the key company came to
From
the.
York, Kirk looked
There
it up.
was, no, there was one, like 2 months ago. It was like 2 months ago.
I don't recall that, Ms. Wolf.
Did you say York, Jim?
Yeah, Kirk looked it up.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 5D, Visual Sound Incorporated proposal. Administration recommends the approval of the renewal agreement with Visual Sound Inc. for Smart Learning Suite software at a cost of $5,041, which will be taken from the technology budget. I think this agreement is attached. Is there a motion to approve item 5D?
So moved.
Motion made by Dr. Lyman,
Second.
second by Mr. Scott. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Item 5E is a waiver of discipline hearing. The parents of a student in this particular case waived their right to a formal student discipline hearing before the Board of School Directors. Administration recommends placement in the Shippensburg Therapeutic and Academic Resource Program at the high school, which is a full-time emotional support classroom. The student is not permitted to participate in any extracurricular, co-curricular, or school-sponsored activities, including athletic events, for a total of 45 days. Is there a motion to approve item 5E?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Ms. Wolfinger. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Eberly. Any discussion?
Nothing about this in particular, but Bill, do we know how many students are in the STAR program at the moment?
I don't have that in front of me, Ms. Wolf. I can get it for you, though.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, well, that was a tidy consent agenda. We are now to the discussion agenda. There are a number of items here. The ones that I noted of particular interest, the 6C, the MOU with junior achievement. Item 6D is a request for additional part-time position. Mr. August, do you want to speak to that?
To both or just that one?
6D, actually.
6D, we have a kindergarten student who has high needs with a number of issues that have been difficult to contain with the staff and resources we have. We looked to an alternate placement at Franklin Learning Center. They were not willing to accept them. So, we're back with this high need student in kindergarten, which we could not anticipate. So this position is a recommendation from the special education department to be able to meet this student's needs. This is the more cost-effective solution as opposed to an outside placement. Mrs. Zima indicated that with this support, we should be able to keep the student in the district.
Does this student have an IEP?
Not yet.
Is it possible, like knowing some of the needs that to look at, because kindergarten's not a requirement, maybe like some remedial work, like with like life skills.
So it's depending on the placement and the evaluations that we take. Yeah, that might be an avenue for the student moving forward.
And could this this hire cause some conflicts with teachers who have a heavy caseload who would love to have some additional help with some rowdy students? Like could or would this, like unforeseen, unintended consequences?
So this is a very student-specific case. To your point, we would have to evaluate. Do the resources that we have in place allow us to meet the needs of the student? In many cases, with kindergarten students, they will, over time, they will kind of get in the school mode and they grow in. So it's really a case-by-case, student-by-student basis for who needs this level of support.
I do just want to say that, like, the verbiage on there, it looks like the school's getting an additional paraprofessional, but it's more personal care.
So, it is an additional position, that's true, that is intended for this individual student. So you are correct, it's an additional aid, but it is for a targeted purpose. And we can certainly look at the end of the year, what our aid configuration is. We're currently not fully staffed with aides. We're still 4, last time I checked with Lauren, we're still 4 aides down where we don't have those aides. So that may be some of what you're feeling, with those classrooms, is that we don't have a fully staffed aide contingent, which is not atypical. We're actually in better shape than a lot of districts when it comes to aides.
So I'm sure that this is a time sensitive.
It is.
And is this, I fear that we're literally going to be robbing Peter to pay Paul with this. So the unintended consequences of leaving the 99 for the 1, like what is that impact to the other students in that building if you have to pull one aide to one for the needs of one student?
So, it's always an opportunity cost. The recommendation from the administration is that this student is in dire need of additional support. And if we can't, so we're not doing this for every student, but this is a student who has certainly hit a tipping point for our ability and the classroom teacher to be able to handle.
Does administration suggest future policy changes to address an issue like this?
So I don't know that it would be policy, Mr. Noggle, and I'm not sure what policy would be.
Well, I'm not sure either.
Policy wouldn't necessarily govern that. This is based on like individual student / building need.
Well, I just, knowing that it's for a student that does not have an IEP, at what point can even a parent or a frustrated teacher say, I've had enough, or I want this service? Like, to know, like, if we might be in the process of an IEP, but it's actually not.
Let me double check the IEP status. My understanding is that you did not have one.
Well, when the student have that, because you tried the Learning Center first?
Charlie can't hear you.
I thought they would know that if you tried the Learning Center first.
I'm not sure what the qualifications are for the Franklin Learning Center.
But this is a building hire, so let's say this student improves or eventually does get referred somewhere, we still have this aide in-house to help in other places.
Correct.
But to that point, it's like we know the aide is already in the building, being pulled from someone who has adjusted their schedules and their routines with the assistance of that aide.
Wait, this is a new aide though, right? Or is
This would be a new position.
Okay, so it may be what is being.
Yeah, to your point, it's definitely, we're moving someone into that position if that's the successful candidate. does perhaps create a hole somewhere else, we would have to fill that and continue to work to fill them.
Because like looking online today, I think that there's 3 empty vacant aide positions, and none of them were listed for Nancy Grace. And there's like at the middle school, high school, and intermediate. Really none at Nancy Grace.
So is there somebody already one-on-one with the student?
So functionally, more or less, because of the high need, we're pulling extra resources in to assist. Now, I wouldn't say it's one-on-one. It's really just at best, my understanding is like a patchwork of how to, help this student, be successful, who comes with a number of, developmental things that are, to your point, could resolve themselves. It's one of those things where the building's already trying with the resources they have to help the student, and it's getting to the point where they just can't keep that pace up, or they need additional services.
Because without it, that means it's going to put a strain on the teachers that we have, or the people within. Without it,
I'm sorry, Mr. Scott, it's hard to hear you.
Without hiring this person, that's going to put a strain on what we.
So we're hoping to alleviate some of that strain that is on the classroom teacher and the other aides in the building and everyone involved.
Yeah.
So
just to be the downer here, but I think this will be an issue we're going to have to continue to face. That we will have more and more kids with these kinds of needs, and so we're going to have to put resources with these kind of kids, and I don't know. This is hard to figure out, but I'm certain that this won't be the last case like this.
Yeah. So we hope not, Dr. Lyman, and we hope that we have sufficient resources within the building and enough of a safety net and to be able to manage these students.
Yeah, I'm sure you're doing your best, but that these needs will continue to grow.
So a couple other items on the discussion agenda that I just want to highlight for you. At 6E, the approval of the new computer science program funded through the National Science Foundation grant looks very exciting. 6F looks like something that I think the board may appreciate some explanation.
Sure. So you may remember, around this time last year, we approved Effective School Solutions to provide additional counseling and mental health services for our students. That contract has a wonky time, that it started kind of mid-year, and so it's going to end at a time when students are still going to be using that. So the good news is, our demand and need for mental health services remains high, and that counselor position is maxed out. Lauren recommended and did some creative financing to reach out to ESS to see, renew the contract, but also look to add services so that we have better coverage between, the different levels. She, working, with myself and others, we were able to adjust some ESSER money, set aside monies that we weren't currently going to be able to spend or could redirect. We also partner with Mechanicsburg, who also has, like a lot of schools, additional mental health needs for their students. So they're going to be taking a one day of the week through our high school consortium of this individual. So they're paying $24,000 of the cost of this. So we're kind of sharing this resource with them. And then, from the special ed contingency fund, we're pulling out some additional funds. So, costs of the district have been absorbed through ESSER grants, a partnership with Mechanicsburg, and contingency funds within the special ed department. So once ESSER ends, this program would look to, we would have to make decisions on whether to continue it. but it doesn't have an immediate budget impact beyond, the spending of those grant monies that we were able to reallocate.
All right, 6G, we are going to, the administration is proposing that we increase the number of hotspots that we dole out to students. And then 6H is actually, will not be on the consent agenda because is that right? Administration's not going to recommend that forward. It turns out that we don't actually need that.
Correct. We'll be removing that. It's redundant with Microsoft Teams. We just had to confirm that, so we're able to use that.
And then items, did I skip a page? Items 6J and 6K are, you have the draft of the MOU between the Support Staff Association and the district, and 6K is a revised collective bargaining agreement. Anyway, I went through all of those. Those were things I highlighted, but the time's yours. If there's anything on the discussion agenda that you would like to discuss or ask questions about, time is yours.
So the new hotspot contract saves us $700 a month. Is that
correct?
Good job.
That's all Dr. Stevens. So.
Okay, well, if there are any questions or comments, please bring them to administration in the meantime, and these items will all be on the agenda at our next meeting for approval. That brings us to our second citizens comment period. I believe we have one person at least who would like to speak, Ms. Roxy Lehman. So as you make your way forward, if you please identify yourself and state whether you live in the district or not. Questions will be taken under advisement. Responses to questions will be offered after due deliberation and provided by the superintendent at the direction of the board within a few days of the board meeting. You're allowed 3 minutes for your comments. Comments relative to private student matters or personnel issues should be directed to the appropriate school authority outside of this meeting. Presiding officer reserves the right to interrupt or terminate a participant's statement when the statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Roxy Lehman, and yes, I am part of the district. So I had 2 parts of what I wanted to discuss today. The first is just not necessarily a rebuttal, but just something I wanted to bring to the attention as I thought more about some of the conversations we had at the last school board meeting. In particular, I know we were really talking a lot about the parking situation in regards to the field. I think it was Mr. Noggle who was counting cars, and came to the consensus as there was about 600 or so cars for particular games, which I think is an important topic because I don't think we have those kinds of counts, and we're thinking about that. But looking at the amount of parking we have at Memorial Park, it's around 250 or 350 parking spots as well. So it seems no matter what, we're going to require that variance, and that we're also going to have to invest in some type of, parking. So it makes most sense, in my, opinion. So it's my suggestion that if we're going to have to add parking, that we're doing it in our campus, for our students and our district to benefit. The second topic I wanted to just bring up is school lunches. So this is something I've noticed after, a few years. We had the free lunch for a period of time. Just the quantity of what's provided in a school lunch, I think has, I'm in the schools volunteering a lot, so just seeing what you get for what you pay, what a student pays for, I think has shrunk over time. And I know my kids come home starving. So it's just a suggestion to kind of reevaluate what our school lunches are looking like, what we're getting for what we're paying and what we can provide. And additional to that, it's come to my attention that we have a policy, I believe, that requires, students to take what's offered in a lunch, even if you're not gonna eat it. So like if it's a side of peas, you still have to take the side of peas. So in thinking about that, I know we're generating a lot of food waste, so one of my, thoughts or suggestion is potentially having, like a shared table or something with, if you're not going to eat something in your lunch, able to put it on this table for others who can't afford or need more food, just so that we're, reducing the amount of waste that we're producing. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to comment? There is. Great. Please introduce yourself and just tell us if you live in the district or not.
I'm Steve Wise. My son Owen's been on the baseball team all throughout high school. He's been at every weightlifting session they have. He's put in all kinds of work. He was informed if he goes on the band trip in the spring that he would be cut from the team. So how does a school-sponsored event prevent him from doing a school-sponsored event? I have the attendance policies here, but there's a gray area. And I know there was meetings the other week about it. I've not been able to get an answer from the athletic department. I've not been able to get an answer from Miss Luffy. And granted, I only called her today. But I would like an understanding as to how he can get cut from the team for going on a band trip.
We'll make sure that administration reaches out to you with.
I'll be happy to talk to you after the meeting, Mr. Wise.
Okay, that'll work. I'd appreciate it.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? All right. Well, that brings us to board comments. Let's see, I think I started on the right last time. Start on the left. Mr. Scott?
I got a prepared statement. Bear with me. I want to make sure you can hear me. At the last board meeting on 9/25/2023, I and 3 other board members were criticized for not voting as the board president thought we should. The board president kept saying he did not understand our votes since we all agreed on this in spring. In the spring, we estimated that we thought the student population would be for this year. I believe our estimate around 100, a little over 100. We are now told it's over 300 additional students. Some board members now say that we need to be looking at additional rooms to James Byrd and Nancy Grayson schools because of the increase in student populations. Curriculum director says most of the growth is in the elementary schools. We're advised we have limited space available in Nancy Grayson. In the spring, we believed our financial position was pretty good. We were told we could do the high school renovations now and do the elementary in 3 to 5 years. I am now told our financial position may not be as strong as we originally thought. And it did and still does not make sense to me how getting bids of the high school gymnasium, cafeteria, and added rooms to the rear of the high school now when we may not be doing these projects for years. The bids may not be close to what it will be in 3 to 5 years from now. I was recently told the cafeteria was taken off the high school project because the administration said it was wanted but not needed. I would like to know when that decision was made, what other projects are wanted but not needed at the high school and within the school district. We all have one vote on this board. Take offense to how this board's president felt he had the right to criticize mine and 3 other no votes. We had and still do have questions about getting these bids without more information.
Ms. Wolfinger?
Nothing.
Mr. Kressler?
Yep, I get a couple. Of course, Mr. August gave the shout out to Ariane earlier, but which is wonderful. But he also is one of the students of the month here at the high school, which is he's like double winner tonight. There's a handful. I think there's like 9 in the picture. I think But it's pretty cool. I mentioned this like a year ago. It was the first that I really started seeing it. Like the yard signs go in that child's yard, and it, you drive by. There's actually one in my development right now. I drive by and I'm like, oh, there's Student of the Month. So again, shout out to all those kids and the staff who are organizing that program or recognizing those kids. Real quick update on some athletic stuff. Field hockey, currently 13th in the power ratings. They have 3 games left. The top 14 teams make it. My math says you win 2 out of 3, you're going to get in district playoffs. So good luck to those girls. Volleyball is 9-5. They're 19th in the power ratings. Top 16 make it. They have 6 games left. So they got a little work to do, but they're having a really successful year. Football won last Friday, 14-7 at Mechanicsburg. They're 3-4. They're 15th in the district. 12 teams make it. Probably need a couple more wins, but I have full faith in them. And then one other thing is winter sports sign-ups start, I think, tomorrow. So if you are a high school kid, I think you're supposed to go do it during flex. I think middle school, those times are like at the lunch periods or something, and then it varies by sport each day. But check with the athletic office, check with your teachers, but get signed up.
Basketball's tomorrow.
Basketball's tomorrow. Perfect. Get out there and sign up for basketball tomorrow, kids. And that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Bard.
Nothing, thanks.
Mr. Noggle.
Nope, good.
Mr. Suiters.
Good.
Dr. Lyman.
I appreciate, Mr. Scott, your your statement. I think it's important for all of us to remember that this is a board of deliberation, and so when we vote in a particular way, it's very, very helpful to get some kind of explanation as to that vote so that we can all communicate in the open and in public and understand why these votes are happening. It doesn't mean we have to agree with each other. It doesn't mean I'm disagreeing with any of the votes in our last meeting. I think we have serious issues that we have to deal with the elementary school situation. But we also have serious issues. It's a train headed down the track with the high school improvements that are happening, and I would hate to see that threatened in any way simply because we weren't communicating well. So I would just encourage everybody to communicate your opinions so that we can all understand what everybody is thinking and function as a functional board. So thank you, Mr. Scott, for sharing those thoughts. That's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Eberly.
So I, again, want to wish Tammy Pritchard a happy retirement, but also my comment comes because after all of those years, like 20 and a half years, that knowledge and expertise walking out the door, it's going to take a very special persons to fulfill that role, and I'm wondering and hoping if we can have that job posted sooner rather than later to allow like proper candidates, perfect candidates to possibly overlap those roles to ensure that like wheels stay on the bus and
go around.
We're losing a lot of brain power with Tammy leaving. So I would very much, make that recommendation to kind of transfer that smooth transfer of information. It's going to be a learning curve for anyone, but the longer we have access to Tammy's institutional knowledge, the better.
Yes. So while we were here, I had received a message that the students in the morning specifically at the elementary schools are still eating breakfast in their rooms, in the classrooms every day. So while the custodians there during the day to help with spills, those messes are still there for the evening custodians, which are short-staffed. So is it possible that we can look at those practices, like some housekeeping?
We absolutely, may have to get to that point, and we can certainly look at it, Ms. Eberly, Mr. Scott. It's not.
I thought from my time from working at James Byrd that maybe that practice had changed, but apparently it still is like the same that they're eating.
I think it's all about, you're balancing like the efficiency of getting the day started, and having kids finishing that breakfast
So it is a trade-off either way. We're losing either instruction time, or we have to deal with messes, and it may get to the tipping point, for sure. We have to look at that.
And I'm also wondering if it couldn't be a cost savings of having to call Chamberlain's with all of the crumbs left in the rooms with some of the friends that like to. So maybe, possibly, just checking that out.
We certainly can review that.
Thank you, Mr. Gonkar. Is there anything you have for us?
I appreciate the board's I appreciate the board providing an opportunity for me to be a part of the school board. I believe we've done pretty well. Like with the data security thing, we've had a lot of data breaches throughout Pennsylvania and all the school districts. Also with our growing population, we've handled the graduation rate pretty well with the extra classes or program.
I'm not sure.
I'm sorry, it was hard to hear you.
It's a program that allows students who are not meeting.
Ship starts.
Chip Start? To take classes at Chip? Is that what you're referring to?
The ones who are not meeting requirements for graduation, and they can.
So we have a couple programs. We have an alternative, alt high. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's great, and and all along with that, I appreciate the school board is expanding extracurricular activities such as girls wrestling. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Gonkar. Appreciate that feedback. Looks like Ms. Kell left us. Mr. August, you had an update on an issue?
I did. So that student that we talked about needing the aid, in fact, I was incorrect. He does have an IEP and is already in a supplemental classroom. So my apologies. I was misunderstanding that initially. So.
All right. I have no comments this evening. All right, so that brings us to our information date saver. We have an athletics committee meeting on the 18th at 3:30 in the conference room and at the operations center. And then we will meet here again October 23rd for committee of the whole and a school board meeting. And then just a quick note that later that week there's a transportation committee meeting, 4 p.m. And then in November we have just one school board meeting, and also in December just one school board meeting, which will be our reorganization meeting. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Let's go ahead and make a motion to adjourn.
Motion made. Thank you.